Hello there, beautiful. How are you doing this morning? How you been all week? Haven't seen you for ages, girl. My name is Joesephyr, and welcome to another Should You Pull video for Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. Now, I'm coming off of a week away from content creation a little bit, and it's been really nice. I've managed to get my studio room, all fixed up and looking good. I've started new painting. I've made some behind-the-scenes bits and pieces that I hope that people may or may not notice, but will enjoy nonetheless. And I've also got some exciting news for Patreon as well. But today we're also going to be discussing Jecht and Ardyn and their BT pluses, as well as Divine Shiva, which will hopefully bring us lots of resources. So if that's all stuff that you guys are interested in, then as always, stay tuned and keep on watching. Now, before we get started, of course, don't forget to check out all of my social media links in the description box below. Do come and find me over on Twitch, of course, where I'm back to streaming every event as it comes out for Dissidia Opera Omnia, including Divine Shiva and everything that follows it, as well as Final Fantasy XIV, lots of Endwalker to look forward to as well. Over on Patreon, I do shout out one of my patrons every time I release a video, and today this is particularly exciting for me, because today's patron of the day is Multiracial Lion, who personal thanks goes out to you because you've been a supporter of mine for a very long time and it means the absolute world to me. Not only that, but you're actually the first of my Ultima tier patrons, as after talking with my existing patrons and deliberating for a long time, I decided that I wanted to integrate my own artwork in with my Patreon and to give back to people who have supported me and literally enabled the ability for me to be a full-time content creator. So I wanted to do something more personal as well. So as you can see, Multiracial Lion's title card here is very different because it is hand-drawn and painted, and it's using a combination of watercolors, pencil and pen in order to create these individually for these new patrons. And after the first month of being on this patron list as well, I will actually send out the physical versions of the title card. The main ones that are a little bit bigger than this is one I made for myself, to your door, so that you can have a memento and a thank you note to commemorate the memories and time we've spent together as well. So a huge thank you goes out to anyone who's already signed up for this, because today's actually the first I actually properly announced it, and people kind of got there before I did, so it's a bit crazy, and I will get those cards made out for everybody as soon as I can. And of course, don't forget to check out all of the other content creators and resources out there for Dissidia, as well as myself, including Tonbury Troop and their fantastic infographics for characters and Lufenia missions. I use the Lufenia ones on this channel all the time, so a massive thank you goes out to you. Leo, Bob and Mediu for their translations over on Reddit. Without them, I would not be able to have a clue what was going on with half the stuff that was over on JP, so being able to read that quickly and efficiently is absolutely fantastic. And then of course Rem on DissidiaDB.com and DissidiaCompendium.com, as well, as we use their resources on this channel all the time, and therefore you should too. So we're going to start by taking a look at the banners themselves, as we always do. So as you can see here, the first of the two banners that's going to feature with Divine Shiva, well, I say that, there is a non-0% chance that things get shifted around here, because obviously I'm putting this out before the community stream on Sunday, which I will be streaming, and you're welcome to come and join me for a viewing party on that point. But because of the shift around, there's a lot of speculation about what's going to happen in there. I even contributed to this, and now that we know that Divine Shiva is coming out a day or two after the community stream, I'm a bit less hopeful that there's going to be something announced that's out of the blue from that particular stream, but you never know. I just thought I'd mention it. But as it is, the banners are Ardyn, Arciela and Lilith set EX, with Arciela having her LD as well, and Ardyn having obviously his full kit including his BT. And Arciela is actually not a bad character to pick up. She's still got a really good call ability. She's not amazing in terms of damage these days, like she's actually pretty poor for it, but she has a really nice C90 coming out later. So perhaps if you were pulling for Ardyn, then having Arciela as a consolation prize might not be the worst thing. But I wouldn't chase Arciela at this point, because if you wanted her for a C90, you could always pull for her with a C90. And then the other banner is going to have Jecht, his brand new LD, BT, all the goodness. Jack is going to have a reoccurrence here with his LD, and Jack's call ability is still one of the best in the game. So if you haven't had a chance to pick this up, definitely a great opportunity to get it now, and then see more with his EX for Chaos Challenge purposes. Now, we're going to talk about Ardyn first. Now, Ardyn didn't get a huge amount out of his his LD boards last time. It helped him a lot. It helped him ramp up quickly because you had to have multiple stacks of his hat buff in order for him to use his spectral charge. So like he like had the additional follow-up attacks after all of his moves, and it meant that his EX hit properly, did the re-break, and did all the bits that you wanted it to do. So now you can just use his LD, he's at max stacks and you can go off. You don't have to break with Warp Strike like you used to. He gets a rework here, but it's not a huge one. It's good, but it's not massive. So he gets more uses of Aura of Darkness, so he's able to keep up his like I take additional turns after breaking thing like Lightning does, with extra uses of that, and it does a little bit more damage, and it has a higher Brave Overflow, and then Warp Strike has more Brave hits as well, but the follow-up that's triggered from the hat buff now has 2 HP dumps in it, which is nice, but the potencies on it still aren't great. You do get a bit of bravery in between the HP hits, but it's still not going to be hitting for colossal numbers like all the time unless he's very, very well supported. And then his BT Plus. His BT Plus actually, to be honest, I've been trying really hard to find really nice things to say about Ardyn's BT Plus, and they're just kind of not coming to me. So Ardyn's BT before now increased Party Max Bravery and Bravery Gen, and that's kind of it. And then his BT Plus at 2 out of 3 gives you party HP damage up and max bravery cap, which is nice, but it's very standard. It doesn't do anything particularly outside the box. It's not going to be breaking any molds anytime soon. It's just not carrying its weight like it used to. So HP damage plus and max bravery cap up is good, but it's also covered by pretty much every other BT Plus in the game. So if you really like Ardyn, don't get me wrong, he's not bad. He's not like you couldn't use him in a mission. But when you've got Jecht stood next to him, who has, like, we'll get to Jecht's BT+, but even just, like, glossing over that on its own, you get 100% bravery damage up, attack up, bravery cap up. You get more out of it than you would with Ardyn. Like, you get the HP damage up, which is good, but a support character can cover that. So unless you were really, really hurting for BTs, and, as somebody who, could BT plus Ardyn, I think I'd rather just save up and wait for another character. If you really like him, he'll work, he'll do his job, but he's just not my first port of call. Now, Jecht, on the other hand, Jecht gets rather a lot out of his LD, BT, and his rework. So Jecht was pretty much a very standard damage dealer, didn't do a huge amount outside of damage, still doesn't, but does a much, much better job of it, and there wasn't anything particularly noteworthy about him. Well, with his rework, his EX, his LD, the whole thing combines into a much neater package than it ever was before. So originally, he'd get plus versions of his 2 skills based on whether he had at least 30% of his max bravery when his turn came around, and his EX gave him enough bravery regen that he'd be able to do that, because Jecht / Plus is an attack that goes off twice, and then sort of Beast Rush was just a move that would then do an HP attack. But with the rework, you get additional uses of both of his skills, and a lot of them as well, and now Beast Rush has a re-break on it, and then 2 HP dumps, whereas Jecht / now has 2 HP dumps and splash damage, but obviously Jecht / Plus, if you've got the plus version of it, triggers twice, so it's going to be hitting really hard. So, you're going to be hitting for multiple brave HP attacks on both of his skills. So going back to his LD attack here, you get instant break against all your targets, 4-hit brave HP attack for AoE, a free skill use on the next turn, split HP damage, but we can't have everything in the world. And he also gets a new buff from it called I'll Think of Something, which is increase in attack, increase in HP damage. He's got a little tinge of Iroha with the retained 30% of bravery when using HP attacks, which is lovely because it means that he's always going to be able to have access to his plus versions even through the brave gain reductions of Lufenia Plus, because he's retaining the amount that he needs in order to do it and not relying on a game to do it. And then he gets Fire Enchant. He imperils fire when he's attacking them, so similar to like Varn, Lan and Rain, that kind of deal. And then when dealing weakness damage, he also has a little sprinkling of Golbez in there as well, because he gets more bravery than damage he actually deals. So this all adds up to a large amount of damage, and having re-break on one of his moves, and the fact that he gets a free turn after he re-breaks because of his EX ability, You know, he gets like the lightning effect, if you will, where he gets a free turn. So typically you're wanting to use Beast Rush followed by Jecht Slash, because then you're getting 2 turns and a lot of damage in between the two. He also has a BT, of course, and his BT is a AoE group Brave HP attack that goes off twice. I'll get that out in a minute. And then you get this effect from it, which is pretty delicious, if you ask me. Attack up 30%, Brave Cap up 20%, so that's always good. Caps are really important. Cap increases are fantastic in this day and age. Party Brave damage up by 50%, Brave Regen by 20%. And then as long as you're attacking a broken target, that Brave damage cap goes up another 10%, and the Brave damage up goes up another 50%, equaling a total of 100% Brave damage up, which is a lot against Brave damage reductions. So it's really powerful if used correctly. And then at BT 2 out of 3, you do also get party attack up. Like you get the party attack up and the Brave Regen that you get that's counted in the package. So offensive powerhouse. It's mostly single target. He doesn't have a huge amount of AoE like bravery attacks. Like his LD has it and his EX has it, but he doesn't have it through a lot of his. No, his EX doesn't even have it. He doesn't have an awful lot of bravery AoE damage. He's mostly focused on single target, but he does have a lot of splash damage on his skills. His EX is still relevant because you're getting a double brave HP dump out of it, and when you get to C90, it's actually 8 Brave HP dumps, which is pretty crazy, but it's a while before we see Jecht C90. But if you're against a single target and you want to just mash their face in, you're going to do well with Jecht. He's going to do a lot of damage very quickly. He's also really good, particularly because of his rebreak and his BT effect. He combines very well with other characters like him. So for example, I'm a big fan of Vayne. We all know I'm a big fan of Vayne. He goes very, very well with Vayne. Like, he is a rebreaker that increases Vayne's damage output exponentially, and then Vayne's BT plus increases caps, etc. even more for Jecht. So those two are kind of like a match made in heaven. However, if you're greening Vayne and Jecht, that is a lot of eggs in the single target basket. So whether you're wanting to kind of capitalize on a singular aspect of play, so you know, while both Vayne and Jecht can work really well in AoE fights, particularly like two enemy fights like Divine Shiva, you're not necessarily going to take them to a 3-man fight where you could have taken somebody like Ace, Cloud of Darkness, or Lan and Rain. So it's up to you, like how, like with any BT character, whether you invest in them, I think, is a very, very much a personal decision based on what roles you're looking to cover. And all you really need to know about Jecht is he does a lot of damage, a lot of fire damage as well, so let's not forget that fire absorb is not particularly nice to Jecht, even though he does inflict weakness damage on it. You know, he does a lot of damage to one target, a lot of splash damage, rebreaks, does more damage. That's pretty much all there is to really say about Jecht. So if you like that and you think his abilities are really cool, then definitely go in for him. But damage dealers, as well we know, are a dime a dozen, and there's lots of different types of damage dealers as well. So whether you decide to go in for Jecht or not is going to be a perfectly personal choice based on what you already have and what you have planned for the future. Okay, so now let's talk about Divine Shiva. Now, we know Shiva's a bit of a cow. We've fought her before. Now we have a Lufenia Plus version of her. And if you've fought Shiva before, you'll know the general gimmick of Shiva is twofold. First of all, when you take the Shiva down to under 30% HP, she'll split into 2 Shivas. So you then have the same fight, just doubled. And the second of which is that she likes to use Diamond Dust. It's the signature move from Final Fantasy. And in this particular game, it freezes you, like your party, so you cannot move until Shiva's next turn. And when you're against 2 of them, it has to be until the Shiva that cast Diamond Dust gets their next turn. So you have to be careful of that in particular. So we have a Lufenia Orb. Now, the Lufenia Orb in this fight doesn't actually kill you. It's the first fight in a while where we've seen the Lufenia Orb attack is just another attack, and it's an AoE Brave HP attack that gives her a shield that reduces the amount of HP or reduces the amount of bravery damage that she takes. So, as long as you can sort of weather those kinds of attacks, then that's not something you really need to worry about all that much. You can actually take Warrior of Light LD with you to just mitigate pretty much any damage that the Shivas will deal to you at all. Because he just sits there. He doesn't care about like Diamond Dust freezing him or anything like that. But at that point, the Diamond Dust pick has a different issue in that it eats into your turn count really badly. So Diamond Dust will freeze you until their next turn, and you have a 70 turn limit. And then because there's 2 Shivas, and not only is it their recast attack, but it's also a threshold attack at 79, 49, and 29%. Now, if you're not careful and you like push them over the edge of the threshold as they're about to get a recast gauge up, you're going to be spending a long time frozen, and nobody wants that. So you have to be very careful how you time the attacks that you're allowing the Shivas to take. But you're going to have to weather 3 of these Diamond Dust attacks, well 6 actually, because it depends on when they are, when they're pushed over the edge. And then you're also going to have to weather a Lufenia Orb attack at 19%. And also past that, when the enemies do like finish all of their big attacks and stuff, they do also get a 1 million HP shield that you need to break through as quickly as possible. Not because they're going to do anything particularly nasty with that shield, but because it's a 1 million HP shield. They've literally just healed themselves for 1 million, and that's damage you're going to have to push through in order to kill them. So it's all about slowing you down more than anything else. So the way that I look at this fight is that you have to kind of break it down into the bits you have to watch out for and deal with those accordingly. So recast bars and threshold attacks and the Lufenia Orb attack, you can weather these completely with Warrior of Light LD and not have to worry about it. The turn count, you're going to want a lot of damage in a short space of time. So whether that be Jecht, Vayne is actually very good for this because delay doesn't work very well in this fight. This fight wants you to bring Rebreakers, it being Ardyn and Jecht's mission. So you want to bring Rebreakers, which Vayne absolutely loves because it means that he can do his thing as much as he wants. And you can kind of control the aspects of where the turn order lies so that you can prepare for those threshold attacks as well. And then, if you don't want to go about it that way, you can use Ace. Ace is actually very powerful in this fight because his off-turn damage will still deal damage even through being frozen. So if you can time that, at least you're still dealing damage while you're frozen, so you can still be sort of working towards your goal without having to eke into too many of your turns. And then, of course, you have those 1 million HP shields, and the Shivas also absorb, or they have moments where they absorb all elements except for fire, so Bart's maybe not the best choice for this particular fight. So you want to just deal a lot of damage in a short burst of time, but there's you kind of have to see it as like a damage phase where you're allowed to deal loads of damage, because if you go too far too fast, they're going to chain together all of these horrible like Diamond Dust recasts, and then that's 20 of your turns gone if you're not careful. So just be really careful with that. It's a nasty fight, I'm not going to lie to you. It's not the nicest, but with controlled bursts of damage and high damage at that, and a way of mitigating their frequent amounts of damage, whether it be Warrior of Light or somebody like Porum, etc. And then the Lufenia Orb attack itself you can deal with by either just weathering it or by taking Jecht, Ignis, Lulu Call, anything like that in order to deal fire damage to keep the orb topped up so they're not doing it so frequently. Then it's all stuff that's going to help in the end. And now, of course, it's time for Would You Pull, the section of the video where you, the viewer, get your chance to let your voice be heard and tell everyone whether you would or wouldn't pull on any given banner and why that might be the case. So once again, a massive thank you to all of my patrons for casting their votes and their comments. With these banners, I was not surprised by one of them, obviously, but the other one I was kind of surprised by. So with Ardyn's banner, 5% of people said that, yeah, we can use gems here, 0% of people said that we can use 100 more tickets, 10% said they'd use less than 100 tickets, and a whopping 85% of people said no. And I think this is for 2 reasons. Ardyn is a character that a lot of people already have, and he's a character that a lot of people look at and probably think the same thing I do, where they're like, is that it? When it comes to his BT Plus upgrades. That's not to say that Ardyn is bad, and I don't think that he's a character that people should absolutely shun, but I do think that his effect is a little more lackluster than we have seen from other BT Plus units, and with resources being as limited as they are, you have to make choices. Jecht banner, on the other hand, 37% of people said yes to gems, 37% of people said yes to 100 or more tickets, 17% of people said less than 100 tickets, and 10% of people said no. I was expecting this to be a little bit more on the top heavy side, purely on the back of the fact that he's a new BT character. Typically when we see BT characters come out, everyone's chomping at the bit to get them, and understandably so. The combination of BT plus effects in this game is extremely powerful. But I would, it's not a small amount, 37% of people saying yes to gems, and reading through some of my comments, etc., I did discover that a lot of people are massive fans of Jecht. I personally am in the second camp of using tickets to get the LD if I can, because I would really like Jecht for two reasons. One, he works really well with Vayne, and I like any excuse to make more use out of Vayne. And B, because that costume is badass, and if I'm ever going to have Team Shirtless Boys, then I'm going to need to get Jecht. So, therefore I am willing to go fairly heavily for him, but not... So he's not somebody I have to have. So going into some of the comments, Protomega says, not pulling unless I get Jecht BT on his other banners. Maria, Shadow, and Lena. I mean, for starters, we don't actually know what his banners are going to look like, because we still haven't had Vanille yet, and this change around with the CUNY stream, God knows what's going to happen with it. So wait and see on that. But going off of the banners that we know about, the only banner here that I'm planning on going heavily on is Lena. That's not to say Maria and Shadow are bad. They're not. They're actually very good. But I'm a huge FF5 fan, and Lena has never done me wrong in this game, so she's a gem banner for me. So that's why I'm using tickets here for the LD. And then if I didn't get it and I got the BT on Lena's banner, then I'd go back and go harder. But honestly, I just want to pull a BT at this point. I haven't pulled one since Yuna. Dober Dragoon says, I have everything on Ardyn's banner, so that's an easy skip. Jecht would be nice, but my reasons are low now, and I think I'll just make a small effort for the LD. I can tell you this though, if I don't get it, I'm not going to cry about it. Exactly that. I'm okay for resources at the moment, but I actually agree with you. If you don't get it, there are damage dealers left, right, and centre. If you like Jecht, go for Jecht. He's going to be really good. But to be honest, that's becoming more true of everybody. If you like them, then they'll work. Even Ardyn. Ardyn is commonly known as one of the weakest BT pluses, but he still gets run. He's still a good character. There are no outright bad characters these days. It's all about making choices and going with the ones that you feel would work best for you. So Alex says, I'm gemming Jecht and making him green straight away. The kit looks cool, he hits like a truck, and he has an amazing costume. As someone who's only made Bart's and A screen so far, I feel he'll be able to complement my roster perfectly, adding a unit able to re-break, act back-to-back, deal massive single target DPS, and be self-sustained damage-wise with enchantment battery. People say he's just a damage dealer, but when the damage is so much, you kind of reduce the need for much else, and that still wins the fight. I'm going to use him for Shiva, DE Transcendence 6, CPU Raid, Fran, and E Delufeniers, but he's able to shine in quite a lot more. I will have to bring Ace BT along him to override that BT theme though, but still, I honestly thought I was the only person that didn't like Otherworld. It's one of those things where if you say, oh, I don't really like that track, people will hang, draw, and quarter you. So I'm not alone. But yeah, I do think that Bart's Ace Jecht is a really nice round thing. I am of the opinion that I could make AoE work even if I had sort of Vayne and Jecht. So I'm if I got him, I would consider greening him, and that's why I'm kind of yeah, I could. Just because I really like anything that makes my favourite characters pop, and Jecht definitely does that very well, and he is very good in all of the events that you've listed there and more. And honestly, a massive thank you for... I tried to tell people, you'll definitely let me know where you're planning on using these characters if you're going to pull them. And these are all fantastic examples. And then finally, Kazira says, Jecht gets everything that Divine Shiva and the rest of his cycle has to offer. As long as I manage to grab the LD, I'll happily token the BT. I've enjoyed using Jecht since early Cosmos, and his LD and BT look way too fun to pass up. Definitely loving the Braska's final Aeon costume as well. I filled out my planner, and it looks like after this I won't be pulling for a good long while. Definitely want to make sure I get this though. There are a lot of characters where people aren't too fussed about pulling them after this point, so we get Golbez with his BT+, Shantotto with her BT+, Jegren, who's a character that a lot of people aren't super fussed about. But, you know, so if you've got a batch of time where you can save, then fantastic. Then take the opportunity. And if you know you're not pulling for a long while, then definitely go in for this if it's something that you're going to make use of for a long period of time. The key to pulling in this game at the moment is just to pick and choose your favourites and run with them, as it seems to be that that's going to be the case for quite a long time to come. So now we ultimately come to the big question of the video: should you pull for Jecht or Ardyn or Jack or Arciella? Now, we'll talk about Ardyn first. Now, Ardyn is, for want of a better term, basic. He's got upgrades. He has more brave dumps. He has more brave hits, more HP dumps. His follow-up attack is a lot better. But ultimately, he still amounts to the same things. Like, he still has Rebreak on his EX, which is still good. His LD, he still has his Undying buff, which means that it's very, very unlikely he's going to die. But if you're building your team correctly, none of your party should be anyway. And he just doesn't really get enough from his upgrades to make him really shine, especially when you stand him next to Jecht. Like, because Jecht does a lot of the same things that Ardyn does, but it's way, way harder and has a much, in my opinion, stronger BT plus effect. So Jecht is a fantastic damage dealer. Like, he's got Rebreak and then the free turn, same like Ardyn, but Ardyn don't follow up with a Jecht slash that hits for 500,000 damage afterwards. You know what I mean? It's like there's a lot that's been well rounded out with Jecht thanks to the things he gets. He's always going to have access to the plus versions of his skills now because his LD buff doesn't care about the brave gain reductions from brave regens, etc., because he retains 30% of his bravery even after he's done his HP attack. So he's always, well, almost certainly always going to have access to the plus versions of his skills. And now that he has the Rebreak worked into his rework for his skill 1, it makes better use of his EX buff, because there was always little bits missing from Jecht's kit that really made him shine, and I think that that's been really well rounded out here. He may well just be a damage dealer. Like, people say just a damage dealer. I've said it in the past. But when you're hitting that hard, I don't think it matters, really. Like, you know, Tifa's just a damage dealer, and so is Jecht. So, you know, there's a lot to like about Jecht for his BT. However, if you're going to grab him, if you don't have his BT plus, like 3 out of 3, there's nothing really that makes him shine across from other damage dealers. I just use Tifa as an example. Without his BT plus, he's just he's no different from Tifa, really. Like, yes, he gets a free turn off of his Rebreak and he gets little bits and pieces, but by and large, he is at that point just a damage dealer, and there's nothing really that makes him shine. So you're probably going to end up putting him on the bench really quickly if you don't go through his BT plus. So I would suggest if you're going to go for Jecht, go all in, and it's the same. The same can be said of any BT character at this point, to be honest. He also does work really well with other BT plus characters. Like, I know that I turn around and I say that your BT plus greens should be filling out like a varied role, etc. But for me, the urge to go green on Jecht because the fact that he works so well with Vayne is making me reconsider that a little bit. But I probably should know better and go, you've got Vayne, you don't need Jecht, but I'll want it. So that's not really the point. But yeah, I think that it's all going to be a choice situation. Jack and Arciella are fantastic pickups. I wouldn't chase after them specifically at this point, but particularly if you don't have Jack, like right now, you'll still have access to one of the best calls in the game. And Arciella has got a really nice future going forward with her C90. So solid banners. Wouldn't particularly pull on Ardyn's, honestly. Like, if you have Ardyn already, I probably wouldn't green him either, but you might want to because you really like him, and he's certainly not unusable. But with limited resources, if I had to choose somebody right now, it would be Jecht. So that's going to be all for today's video. Thank you ever so much for joining me. I've not been here for a week and it feels like a month. It's very strange, but I've got a lot done in that week, so perhaps I should take a bit of time off a bit more often. Let me know in the comments below what you think of Jecht, Ardyn. I'd actually really like to hear from people who want to green Ardyn and where they plan to use him, because I've only really seen like a lot of negativity surrounding Ardyn's BT+, but I really like Ardyn as a character, so if I see enough evidence to suggest that he's going to carry me a long way, which I've yet to see, then I would have considered greening him instead, but I probably won't. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think of that, and obviously don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for notification of future videos I might be making, and I will see you for the community stream on Sunday. Thank you ever so much, and take care. Goodbye.